Press it.
Well, I'm wondering whether to do it at full blast or not.
Yeah,
today.
go on, do that. Aim for that
The problem is, it's easy to do it full blast. It's easy to do it full blast if you've got a fixed speech. It's not easy to do it full blast.
Tell me about it.
If you haven't got a speech pre-prepared. But I'll try a little bit without wearing my voice.
Your voice goes up and down.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we are here today outside the headquarters of Palantir, this building right here. The building behind us has 20% of the global staff of Palantir working here. Last night on Channel 4, Louis Mosley, the head of Palantir in the UK and Europe, defended his company on Channel 4 Newsnight. Is it News? Channel 4 News.
Channel 4 News.
He was interviewed for 10 minutes. In that interview, which I have in my hand, and I recommend everybody here and everybody online watching this take a look at. In that interview, he summarised what Palantir does, what it's accused of, and tried to defend the company against the accusations. There is a startling revelation in his own responses, which I want to highlight because I noticed until now nobody has highlighted it. When on the 28th of February, the United States of America launched its offensive against Iran, on the first day of that offensive, they blew up a school early in the morning, killing over 150 schoolgirls and schoolboys. Most of the girls were between the age of 7 and 12 years of age. I posted a video about that week. I also wrote a leaflet about that, an open letter to Palantir, asking if Palantir was responsible, if it knew who was responsible, and if it didn't, if it could identify what happened. I argued that this is a matter for a police investigation as to whether this building is a crime scene involved in a war crime and a mass murder on that day, 28th of February. Some people, American military contractors, contacted me and said, oh no, it's got nothing to do with Palantir. It couldn't have anything to do with Palantir. I'm going to go silent while this vehicle goes past for a minute. It'll mess up my voice. Yeah, but when that comes past...
Palantir are paying him to come round at the same time.
Always at the same time. Always at the same time.
Well, they've done him something. This is sucking water. He looked up at Palantir to make sure they see he's here, so he gets paid.
So yesterday on Channel 4, Louis Mosley was asked about the role of Palantir or the connection between Palantir and the bombing of the school in Minab in northern Iran on the first day of the war. Now, it's quite a long time since that bombing. In the meantime, lots has happened. As I said, some people said to me, Palantir couldn't have been involved. A human had to decide. And I can tell you this, what Louis Mosley said, which I consider rather suspicious. Asked about the killing, he said, well, on that specific example, we can wait for what the American government makes public about how the incident came about. Then he says explicitly, we were not involved. I think to suggest that Palantir bears some responsibility for what happens there is wrong. So that's one statement about 3 minutes into the interview. But afterwards, he says something slightly different. He says, it would not have been Palantir that gave any target. It would be the software in which the target was identified, prioritized, and prosecuted. So that workflow, if you like, what is what our software supports. But it is not the decision-making engine. That's always a human. Now, I've posted a video from Palantir where they explain to defence contractors how that decision-making is made. And basically, Palantir loads hundreds and thousands of in software, loads hundreds and thousands of targets, which a human being, a soldier, an officer, a senior intelligence agent, uses to click this, click that, yes, authorize. So that's what he means by a human authorizes the actual targeting. And then, because he exposes himself by saying this, the interviewer said, but are you worried about that? Do you, or are you worried about your company's involvement in that horrific mistake? Quote, mistake. And now Louis Mosley changes his tack. He says, well, like I said, I am not read into the details, and we need to wait to find out from the American government what has happened there. So I don't know, frankly, whether we were or were not involved. And I'm waiting to hear, like everyone else, what the results of that investigation are. So 1 minute he says emphatically we played no role, then he turns to it and says he does not know at all whether they played a role. And he hopes the American government will tell him. It is their software, it is their programs, it is their advice, it is their training that led to the killing of those children. And then he turns to it and says, we wash our hands because we didn't press the final button. You lay down a series of options in front of someone.
He's on double time.
Oh, it's Louis Mosley.
No, he hasn't got a smirk.
You place a series of targets, automated targeting, in front of an officer. He presses a button, a bomb blows up, 2 bombs blow up and explode a school, and you turn around and say, yeah, but we didn't press the button. Well, that's perfectly true. It's like saying, you know, someone stabbed someone, but of course, I didn't push. He pushed against me when he was on top. It's not just complicity. It's setting the entire scene for that to happen. It's creating the scenario in which that person chooses from A or B and is bound to make vast numbers of errors, so-called errors. And then he's asked about Gaza. Did Palantir's software get used after October the 7th? Wrong question. Has Palantir's software always been used in the last decade to facilitate the IDF targeting Palestinians for arrest and detention? Yes, it has. He said, oh, well, we were not involved in targeting of buildings. Instead of this, he said, or people, we are helping to detect and identify where the hostages were. That's the claim, where the hostages were. But of course, the entire logic and argument of Netanyahu and the IDF was that the entire killing and the entire levelling of Gaza was based on trying to get the hostages. In other words, under the cover of saying you're out only to identify where the hostages are. You can provide the IDF with loads of different targets that you think are where the hostages are. Those are the targets that the Israelis blew up. So it's a complete avoidance of the truth, or better said, a concealment of the truth of Palantir's involvement in the genocide in Gaza. Then, asked about ICE, he turned round with the standard excuse that he's been making all along. And that is, oh my God, we are the defenders of Western democracy. Our software is only used by Western democratic governments. And therefore, we support Western democracy and the rule of law. Anything else would be illegal. In fact, what he's saying is, any government that is elected can do what the hell it likes with the software they produce, which, as Alex Karp, the so-called leftist Democrat amongst them, said, is used to kill people, is used to target people, is used to deal with the bad people. And the bad people can be openly decided by any of the good people who happen to be in power in government anywhere in the world, even if they are clearly not good people. And do not forget, Adolf Hitler was elected in Germany. So in other words, what he's saying is, if an Adolf Hitler is elected, our software can be used by them to kill as many people as possible because he's democratically elected. Unless, of course, that democratically elected individual or government or party was to decide something that contradicts Palantir. So, for example, the democratically elected mayor of London decided 2 weeks ago not to agree to renew the Palantir contract. Because Sadiq Khan said this company is not in line with Londoners' values, because Sadiq Khan said we will not renew the £50 million contract to spy on police officers in their homes, to spy on their private lives, and also to spy on the public. I was just discussing with the police here. We had a pleasant conversation. I'm not anti-police. I don't hate the police. I've been arrested 7 times, wrongly arrested by the police. I got some compensation. The police officers don't hold grudges against me. I don't hold grudges against them. I was mistreated, but that was the general line of the police during COVID, to mistreat people. However, the police are being told policing is all about using a computer to spy on people, using AI to spy on people, and then raid their home and arrest them. And the same policing technology that Palantir is providing is to be used against the police themselves. Under the contract with Palantir, set up by the Metropolitan Police without competitive tender. No competitive tender. They just agreed the contract, just the same as the NHS. They got the contract for the COVID, NHS controls over resources and the rollout of the vaccines and the data, and from that they wheedled their way in such that it could not be extricated, and they got the contract then for something like £350 million to control the databases of the NHS. In America, health data, national government data is being pulled together by ICE to arrest and imprison innocent people in the name of the anti-immigration dragnet. What does Mosey say? Well, the elected government is doing it. It's not our job to tell the elected government what it does. But when Sadiq Khan cancelled their contract, he now says we're going to sue Sadiq Khan. So in other words, It's nothing to do with democracy. Even though the democratic elected leader of London opposes the undemocratic and non-competitive tender contract with the police leadership and Palantir, he intervenes and says, I will seek, or we are seeking, or better said, he said, our lawyers are investigating whether or not we can sue Sadiq Khan. So in other words, whether or not he can take legal sanction against the elected Mayor of London, who I despise, but the elected Mayor of London has the democratic mandate. Palantir has no democratic mandate. And last week, the government investigation into Palantir and AI concluded Palantir does not correspond with the values of the entire United Kingdom. So here we have it. Palantir is run by Alex Karp, Louis Mosley and Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel advocates effectively the same policies as Israel and the same policies as Donald Trump, except he's to the right of Donald Trump. He thinks there should be private communities, private nations, run by big business AI technology giants, and that they should run the world. They should rule the world. They should decide what happens in the world. Elon Musk and his friends, they're competing for the same ideological and political and economic space. They are behind the riots taking place in Ireland today. They are behind the whipping up of hatred in the last week in Southampton against the police.
Hear, hear.
It is not the police who did the killing of that kid. It was a Sikh murderer, and their family backed them up. It was not the police. The police officer, rightly or wrongly, arrested the guy on the floor. There was no blood showing, or no significant blood showing. It was, from the standpoint of a police officer, a normal arrest procedure. He had no idea that this person had been stabbed. And yet Tommy Robinson and the rest of them, financed by Israel and Elon Musk, are trying to whip up a race war. And these people are effectively complicit in the same game. Oppose Palantir, oppose the tech giants, oppose the tyranny imposed by the AI giants today. Thanks very much, ladies and gentlemen. Stop Palantir. Stop Palantir. Stop Palantir. Stop Palantir. Stop Palantir. Thanks very much.